Hi, yes, hello. It's a quick time slot, and I've got a long and kind of goofy story to tell you, so I'm going to have to hurry. I'm Mike Loss. I work for Asterisk Information Security in Perth. I do pen testing and whatnot. You might know me as the guy who made Grouper. And I'm just going to tell you a quick, goofy war story about this one time a client wanted something that kind of seemed impossible, and how we pulled it off by being lucky as hell and not particularly prepared. I've had to trim some of the middle bits out of this story to make it fit in the 15 minutes, but the original engagement did include substantial contributions from Nano and DT here, so credit where credit's due, and please attribute the dumbassery to me. So, the brief. Several years ago, back when I'd only been doing this pen testing thing for about 6 months, we had a client come and ask us to red team them. Please note the enormous scare quotes. I love doing the bad guy stuff, so I got really excited. But when the client started to explain their requirements in detail, we realized that what they wanted met basically no accepted definition of red teaming. The client was a big organization with a bunch of facilities out in the suburbs. They wanted us to start by gaining physical access to one of the satellite sites and then use that physical access to get onto their network. Then they wanted us to pop a specific Confluence site and deface the front page to provoke incident response. The client contact also said that we weren't allowed to, quote, run any exploits on any other targets in the network. We tried to explain that this would be an extremely odd thing for a real-world attacker to do, but the client did a lot of hand-waving and just kept talking. He'd spoken to their internal legal team, and they'd told him that the defacement could not be anything offensive or political. No porn, ISIS flags, whatever. Fair enough, we said, but this is getting less and less realistic the more you tell us. No one's going to get onto your internal network, hack a single Confluence site, deface it with an apolitical message, and then stop. Dude didn't want to hear it. After that, he said our job would be to keep putting the defacement image back again and again until evicted from the network or until he cried uncle. Then, as the meeting's wrapping up and he's walking out, the dude pulled a Columbo on us and he said, one more thing. The legal team said that when you're trying to get into the building, it has to be during business hours for safety reasons. Also, you can't lie to any of our staff. We were kind of flabbergasted, of course. We tried to explain how absurd a task this was, and that surely there'd been some miscommunication between him and the lawyers, but he was adamant, no lying. So, lesson the first, if the client asks for something dumb or impossible, try to figure out what they actually need, and certainly if they're not at the right maturity level and they're asking for red teaming, maybe question that. We discussed it internally and decided that if they were paying, it was going to be worth a try. We'd rules lawyer our way through the thing, and if we failed, we'd do what testers always do when a client decides to try and hamstring us on a gig. We put a big section at the front of the report that says limitations. So, preparation. First, we tried to do some recon. The site that the client selected for us was basically the worst. It was in like a semi-rural area, the end of a long driveway. It didn't seem to have any Wi-Fi, and it had like those mirrored windows, so you couldn't see anything inside. And one of us was clearly just going to have to walk up and wing it. I'd never built a Dropbox for a gig like this before, but neither had anyone else in the team, so I just kind of made it up. We ended up with 2 devices to plant. Both are basically just Raspberry Pis and a powered USB hub. Then for one, we had a Wi-Fi adapter set up to silently host an AP in the hope we'd be able to reach it from the car park or the bushland nearby. The other one had a USB LTE adapter that would connect out to a C2 server with OpenVPN. In retrospect, I think the only way we could have made each look more like IEDs is if we'd gaffer taped each of them to a 3310 and a rusty artillery round. I found this picture on Pinterest, by the way. It's a 1/6 scale toy IED. Lesson number 2, don't make your Dropboxes look like bombs. buy a goddamn Jiffy box. Also buy a label maker and write, IT, do not unplug. This being the first time that I'd done this kind of thing, I wanted to do it right. And so I kitted myself out like I was breaking into the Pentagon or whatever. Lockpicks, multi-tool, Proxmark, zip ties, gaffer tape, the whole bit. I can't pick locks to save my life, so I don't know what I thought I was doing. Of all the crap I brought, the only things I actually used were the drop boxes themselves and a badge that we faked up with like a color printer and some clear packing tape. So lesson the third, you are not James Bond. Don't bring a bunch of crap you're never going to use. Right, the mission itself. So I drive into the place, I park the car, I double check that I haven't wet my pants, and I walk in the front door. There's a desk with a receptionist at it, and she looks me right in the eye as I walk in, so I know I'm clearly not going to be able to just glide past. So I've got to talk to her, but I'm not allowed to lie. Hi, I said, I'm Mike. Do I need to sign in? Yes, in the book, just over there. Who are you here to see? She said. By the way, I did not sign in. I've been sent down by IT to do some network testing. She says, do you know where you're going? I reply, I just need to find a spare network port I can plug a testing device into. She says, well, there's an area that everyone's just moved out of. Will that work? Yeah, that'll work great. Lesson 4, half the truth is often a great lie. Also, the best backstory is the one you know inside out. If you used to work help desk, pretending to be a help desk person is really easy. So she shows me around the corner to this big semi-open plan kind of area, and I start crawling around on the floor under the desk with my laptop looking for a port to patch into. But they've all been unpatched because everyone's moved out of this area. So I'm pouring sweat because it's the middle of summer and they've switched the AC off. Eventually, after a bunch of horsing around and swearing, I find a live port. I plug the Wi-Fi-based Dropbox into it and stick it to the back of a filing cabinet. And then I realize that there's no fucking PowerPoints anywhere nearby. So, of course, I panic, and I basically walk laps around the room for a couple of minutes until I notice that there's actually a coiled-up extension cord on one of the desks, and I'd just been too freaked out and agitated to notice it. So lesson 5 is don't panic and build battery backups into your Dropboxes. So I plug in, I confirm that the phone's on my phone, that the APs come up, and then I start looking around for a good place to plant the second box. I'm feeling good. This is working. I'm doing this. So I start walking down the hall, trying to remember all the advice anyone ever gave me about this kind of thing. People walk past, and I smile like a lunatic and say, "G'day!" I find another area that's been mostly emptied out, and I'm just about to start rooting around under a desk when I hear a voice from one of the officers around the edge of the room. It was a cybersecurity report an incident. I've been rumbled. What did I do? How did I fuck up? I freeze where I am, and I listen as hard as I can, but my heart's beating really hard, my jaw's clenching up, I can't hear shit. I walk a bit closer to the door the voice is coming from, so I can hear better, and I can see there's someone in there, and he's facing away from me, but he doesn't look like he's on the phone. And I take a look at his screen and just about burst out laughing, because he's doing his annual cybersecurity awareness training. And he's got the volume up super loud on his laptop speakers so he can't hear me behind him. Sigh of relief, I find another live port in a corner behind a mountain of crap. I plug it in, I wait for the lights to go green. I text Nano to get him to let me know when the OpenVPN connection goes live. Years pass. Finally, he tells me it's working, and I basically sprint out the door, dive into my car, speed back to HQ. So, the hackening. Once we actually got down to it, the actual hacking stuff was kind of fish in a barrel. We responded up a set of low-proof creds. We used those to pull some scheduled tasks out of group policy. Used those creds to push Empire agents out to a few servers. Got some DA, dug in like a tick. I know Empire's not cool anymore, but this was back when Empire was actually new. Note, none of this constitutes running an exploit on any of the servers. Lesson 7, nothing is too dumb or too obvious to be worth trying. Next, Nano deployed a scheduled task to the Confluence server to replace the template for the main dashboard with this every 30 minutes. You can't go political, you can't go offensive, so you might as well go 90s skid. Nano might have gone a bit overboard, I don't know. At this point, we told the client contact that where we were up to, and then we just went quiet, checking in on the site every now and then. A little bit later, we noticed that the site's returned to normal. Then shortly after that, we see the defacement page come back as expected. Then about 10 minutes after that, we noticed the whole server's gone down, which was kind of tricky because that meant there was nothing for us to keep defacing. So we found another server with a default IIS web server install. We dropped our defacement image in the web root with an index.html and then created a CNAME record in DNS that pointed the original back to ours. Ta-da! Which brings us to lesson 8. There is always another way. It's at this point the client contact called us to let us know that their staff, who'd been reasonably chill about the defacement originally, were basically panicking that we'd somehow magically hacked a server that was turned off. And they were getting ready to shut down internet connectivity for the whole company, which is pretty big. That's the point where he went, oh, this has gone too far. So he told them it was just an exercise and called a stop to the whole thing. We tried to suggest that we keep going so they could have some hunting practice or practice their processes, whatever. But I think they were so horrified by how badly it had all gone that they just wanted to take the report and lick their wounds in peace. Then a year later, the client came back and asked for another round of the same. They were most interested in seeing how their new incident response processes stood up. So we suggested that this time we do it rodeo style, straight to assumed breach, drop agents on half a dozen machines, wave a big red flag in front of the blue team, and then hold on as long as we can. Which leads us to the weirdest thing I've ever had to put in a report and then read out to a room full of C-levels. Allow me to read an excerpt from the engagement timeline. 0950, user one's machine became active. Used Metasploit to launch a web browser on the workstation and display a YouTube video of Russian people dancing to folk music in the street. This did not appear to provoke a reaction. Triggered a PowerShell window displaying an animated ASCII version of the video clip for Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up. Client contact advises us user one has not yet initiated incident response. Triggered a system tray notification balloon reading, hi. 10:05, user one's machine appeared to drop off the network. 10:33, user one's machine reappeared on the network. Client contact advised that user one had requested assistance from desktop support, had not initiated incident response. Client contact requested further provocation in order to expedite incident response, suggested targeting user 2. By the way, user 1 and 2 are both people with the word security in their job title. And they sat within visual distance of our client contact, so he could tell that they were seeing this stuff and not reacting. 11:01 deployed an agent via PSExec to user 2's workstation and triggered another ASCII animation via PowerShell. Client contact advised no response, requested further provocation. 11:10 pushed another system tray notification reading, pay attention to me. Still no response. Client contact requested further provocation. 11:15 displayed dialog box reading lol hacked while playing AC/DC's Thunderstruck at max volume. 11:17 client contact advises incident response has been initiated. about an hour later, the client contact rings us again. All our agents are still running except the 2 on those 2 workstations, and they're all calling home regularly, most of them just to the same C2 server that the others were on. OK, I think they found you on the SCCM server, he said. But I'm not on the SCCM server. And he says, hold on, let me call you back. They're about to try and cut off the whole internet connection again. Which brings us to lesson 9. You can give a horse a detailed report telling them where the water is, how to drink it, how much to drink, and how to tell when they've drunk it. And you get the idea. And that's it.